In an ever-evolving digital landscape, for your business to thrive, you must adapt or die. Welcome to Marketing in the Age of AI, the podcast helping you harness the power of AI and marketing tools to revitalize and grow your business. And now here's your host, marketing expert and author of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI, Emanuel Rose.
Welcome to this episode of Marketing in the Age of AI. Today we're going to dig into the topic of what makes a successful technology deployment and how do you manage the change management portion of implementing AI into your organization or into your team or into your business. And today I have the pleasure of talking to Cesar Teague, who is a change management expert and a distinguished consultant specializing in go-to-market strategies, authentic leadership, and change management. With a rich background in enabling leaders and teams to drive real results, Cesar has successfully guided CEOs, COOs, and sales executives through critical transformations, enhancing revenue growth across mid-market firms in the U.S. and in Europe. His unique blend of coaching and expertise in training and development equips organizations to navigate change effectively. And thanks for joining us as we delve into the practical strategies that empower leaders to inspire and achieve meaningful outcomes. Cesar, thank you so much for taking time to have a conversation with me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. And that was a tremendous introduction. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm willing to, get involved in all your meetings so I can introduce for you. I'll be the herald.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, sorry. I'm playful today because everything is going sideways, and
Yeah, you have to have some fun. If you're not having fun while doing this, I'm telling you, the stress will just continue to eat away. In fact, I think I saw a guitar there behind you, and I have one right next to me as well.
Oh, nice.
That's one of the ways to really just to ground and center, because the work that we do, it's not. I'm not going to say it's a lot of fun, but we have to show up as change leaders. Certainly the folks I work with, IT, technology leaders and SMEs, right? They have to show up and lead the charge, so to speak.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting challenge that we have in this time, right? In the last technological changes that we've seen from ERP systems and CRMs, and then the internet, and I don't think there was such a concern about people losing their jobs, right? Like there's a lot of hype around that, that we're all being replaced by AI. I guess how do you approach that fear from individuals in roles that potentially could be eliminated by AI agents or bots?
Well, I mean, there are some roles that let's face facts, right? And the reality is there are some roles that are being eliminated. I think copywriters, I got an email today from a gentleman. He goes, coming from one of the first roles to them, copywriters, right? And so I think some are being replaced by the technology that's been introduced, right? I mean, I think we were chatting about how something like Agent Force, from Salesforce, was announced a year ago, even though Einstein's been around for 9 years.
Yep.
It was built on. So it's been around for a little bit. It's just sort of hit that tipping point here in the last year, where it's really accelerated. And now you have various versions of Claude, right? Gemini popped out, and then certainly different iterations of ChatGPT. And so, yes, certain roles are being eliminated. People are fearful because we got the FUD going on, right? The whole fear, uncertainty, doubt is alive, kicking, and well. And so when you mentioned ERP and certainly CRM systems, probably some of the most intense change happens around when you're implementing those new systems, because it's across the different departments and different areas. And so, yeah, it's how do we plan for that, and how do we manage that? And that's what I showed up here with, wanting to share a little bit about that. And I'm developing a course on it, super short thing course, and my site on it. And so, yeah, that I can share that later on.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that.
Hmm.
I think that's the thing that I'm seeing in the deployments and in conversations with other people who are doing deployments for clients is that, as we were talking about, the technology is moving at an hourly change right now. The pace is changing every hour, which we've never seen that level before. But the people and the organizations are moving on weekly or monthly change. So how do you? What's the framework that you kind of wrap teams into to be able to a manage the FUD, and then B, integrate and start to increase the pace of adoption?
It's a great question, right? Because now people are saying, "Well, you mean I have to do this and my day job too?" Right? So you got to do all of those things at the same time. So people aren't happy. As in anything, you have those. You've seen the bell curve with the early adopters, and then all the way out to the laggards. It's the same thing in change. You have those, early adopters. You have the naysayers, and you have the folks that are, going to embrace it, and those who are just not, just going to resist. Fight tooth and nail. And so you have to have an approach for doing that, right? And so I actually put together a model for it. It's not so much a change management model, as we were talking about that. There's some solid models out there, and I use some of them. The ADKAR from ProSci, you have the Kotter 8-step method, and you have
Yep.
McKinsey 7S. Those
Right.
are the three that I typically look at. 5, 7, and 8 steps, right? So
Right.
I respect, in terms of those three. So, but before you even do all that, where do you begin? And
It's a great
so,
question. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's why I put together a model. It's called the APE model, and it's simple, but it's not easy. And I've shared some slides. I mean, I have a couple of slides on it. If I can share that,
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd love to see that. What
I'm
you got?
happy to do that here.
Thanks.
So I'm a visual person, and I want to see visually what the heck am I talking about here.
I like it.
Um, so I'll share that here. Let me take a look here. I'm going to share that, and you can let me
Let's
know
see.
if you
Yep,
can
should be
see my
good.
screen.
There we go. Should be able to be good.
You can see my screen.
Yes, I can.
Okay. In terms of okay, so you're seeing all the various slides, and we obviously don't want that. We want to, like, let me just go into specifically. So yeah, so we're talking here about about that, and I'm going to skip that for a second here and see here. Dun, dun, bum, bum, bum. I'm going to skip that. I don't need to introduce myself there. You did a brilliant job of that. So,
Thank you very much.
in terms of this change process, right? And here's some research that's out there, and that I've pulled from different organizations. Some important stats here to note: that 40% is really you talked about the fear and about this change. It's really at least 40% of employees feel anxious about the change. And some people are saying there's like 70% of change initiatives don't succeed. But when they do, obviously, with some good change management strategies, they are seeing this uh, 264% greater revenue growth for the ones
Yes.
who get it right. So there
Yep.
is light at the end of the tunnel. There is a benefit to doing this, and so very important, right? That this is what's going on. Then there's lots of other interesting stats as well, but I thought these three were really highlighting what we're talking about.
Right. And that there's a lot of fear. A lot of the projects are not working, but when they do work, there's a very big payoff.
Yeah, and in terms of this, I really love this particular complex change. You may have seen this in other applications, but Dr. Mary Lippitt took a look at this in terms of managing the complex change. And here's some components, right? Vision, skills, incentives, resources, and action plan at the top. So you see that. So you have those things in place, then there's a greater chance of success. And I'm not going to go through every one, but certainly starting at the vision level, if you've got the skills, the incentives, the resources, and action plan in place, but the leadership team hasn't communicated and articulated the vision and mission behind this,
Right.
it's going to
Yep.
cause confusion.
Yep.
And then the other components follow along where this is missing, that's what's going to happen, all the way down to, well, you have everything, but you don't have any action plans, then you're going to get some false starts, right? It's
Right.
not really going to kick in. So that's kind of like a little bit what I wanted to just share around that. In terms of, facing these future challenges and opportunities, I wanted to take a step back and just say that, I have a saying here. Strategy without action is a daydream,
Yeah.
but an action without strategy,
Oh, yeah.
that can really, so the reason I'm sharing this is because you really got to take a step back and look at, okay, what's our strategy? And that's why this is called strategic planning and messaging for effective change management, right?
Love it.
Especially in IT type deployments and projects, right? And so I'm just going to share with you this APE model that I
Yeah.
talked about. And basically, it's starting with analyzing and assessing the situation, right? So it's like driving. You have to know your starting point before I want to go to the airport. It's 20 minutes south of me here. I'm in San Francisco. I'm in the southern part of the city. I live near San Francisco State University. I want to get to the airport. How am I going to do that? What's my starting point?
Yep.
And all these things. So typically I've highlighted, there's a number of things one can do, but I've highlighted some of the 2 key points here in terms of having a SWOT, and that's the company SWOT, even the departmental SWOT.
Yep.
And then certainly doing stakeholder interviews to assess where are we, and doing some change readiness as it's indicated there to assess, okay, what's really going on, what's the feedback we're getting. And by the way, as you're doing this, the stakeholder interviews, you're involving more people.
Sure.
And, I think what's important to note here is that some of the change management projects I've seen that haven't, or most of them that don't succeed, is because it hasn't been communicated early enough to the other folks in the company. So yes, it says stakeholder interviews, but you want to be certainly interviewing different people at all levels, not just the top.
Right. I think
right?
Kotter does a great job of breaking down that communication process, at least the way that I like it. I thought he did a good job with that.
He does a good job of that. He also does a good job of defining the difference between leading and managing, right? I mean, that's another different conversation, but really important to do both of those. You got to do both of them well.
Yeah, right.
In order to make this work. And certainly you have to assess, okay, where are we? Where are we aligned and where are the gaps?
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons for doing the stakeholder interviews. And then you're assessing the change readiness. And then at that point, you're determining, okay, given all this, what OCM, organizational change management method, are we going to use? Are we going to use Kotter? Are we going to use ADKAR? Are we going to use McKinsey? Whatever it is. And then determining the priorities and then going from there. Now, I'm simplifying all this. This takes some time to do, and it takes some digging, and it takes courage, right? It takes a lot of courage and vulnerability at the same time for people to open up, because there's some people that say, well, why are we doing this? They might even trust you as to why. They may not reveal to you during the stakeholder interview what's really going on, because there's some other issues behind that, right?
Sure.
I'm trying to simplify it here, but it's important to know this is what's happening here. But at least you have a model versus shooting from the hip. You have a starting point that you can implement to use to increase the chances of success, because this is not easy at all. Right. And it takes some time, depending on the complexity. It could take anywhere from 3 months to 3 years. Right. So SWOT, I mean, I think most people here know what the SWOT is, but I'm just going to go real quick here that you have the internal and external SWOTs in terms of what's going on for strengths and opportunities. Certainly, what are the threats in terms of other technologies or other things going on internally or externally, that could affect this. So you have to look at and consider those and ask really good questions here, right? And some of the questions are some of these here. I'm not going to read every single one, but we have to understand, what are the things we can capitalize on, and, what are our limitations. And again, that was the purpose of the stakeholder interviews and going from there. So, right, Makes sense so far, right?
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's a good
So
system.
once you understand that, right, then you can move on and start planning, because your plan is informed by your analysis and assessment of what's really going on.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, you can't plan effectively,
Right.
right? And so when I talk about planning, I'm referring to objective strategies and tactics.
Right.
That's what I mean by
Yep.
planning, right? So you're taking a look. Here's our key things we want to accomplish here, and given SMART goals and all that, this particular time frame. And here's some of the key few strategies. Here's 4 or 5 strategies that we think is going to make this work, and then here's a number of tactics we want to do day to day, week to week basis. And given all that, then we develop the RACI model, right? As far as who's going to do what, who's responsible, accountable, right? Supporting, consulted, and informed, given all this and framework, and then
Love it.
going from there. All good so far?
I love it. Yeah.
I'll pause there for a second and see if you have any particular questions before I dive into the other 2 sections of the model.
No, I like it. I think it's interesting. Yeah, that I like the stakeholder interviews. I think that's a cool way of the assessment, and then and moving into the plan. And also that you're bringing in SWOT earlier. I like that too. So it. I think that first chart that you did with the gaps, that's the one that I haven't seen before, that I thought is a really great um, teaching tool for people who maybe are saying, "Oh, this is too complicated or too corporate or too structured." But if you don't manage the complex change correctly, there's really only one road to success. So I like that. I like that concept that Lippitt has brought forward.
Yeah, no, that's great. I just jumped back for a second here just to show you, but I'll power forward here,
Yeah.
if I may,
Yep.
and just go
Absolutely.
here real quick, given the time we have. So in the APE model, we talked about the analyze and assess, right? And then we're planning
Yep.
and determine we're really answering the question of who, what, when, why. This is all part of this plan piece, right? And then once you have your plan, then you want to go and execute on the actual strategies, right? You
Right.
want to do tactics, and what is it that we're going to do in terms of the model that we selected to use to implement this, um, because part of the executing on that is really, what's your communication and cadence with the company,
Right.
obviously not just with the stakeholders, but with everybody, getting them more involved. Like I said earlier, you have some training and facilitation and training and coaching that needs to be done given the new technology you're introducing, but then also around the why and the what around that, and the what for. So
Yeah. Right.
got to be communicating that, and it's better to err on the side of over communicating than under communicating to keep people informed. Usually in some companies they're more active on Slack
Right.
internally than on email,
Yep.
right? I've worked with some companies where everybody's up. I mean, they hardly use email; they're mostly on Slack. And so you can start a Slack group there for this change initiative, and then do like an all hands, and reach out and things of that nature there, to just to increase the buy-in and to reduce the resistance that we were mentioning around the fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yep.
So this is where you're executing on it, with specific timetable, and then you have to evaluate
Right.
how's it going. Leading indicators are typically some of the behaviors that are driving, the lagging indicators, which is the results. Because the results you're seeing, the feedback you're getting, is obviously after the fact,
Right.
very important. But what are some of the behaviors that we've done or you've done during the change management process that are affecting that? Right. What's the adoption rate here? That you mentioned this earlier, and then what kind of feedback are we getting? You're doing surveys, and you're literally doing this on a regular basis to make some adjustments. I think that some people will try to do a change that's pretty big all at once. Well, that's one approach.
Sure.
The other way is you can kind of like chunk it down, maybe do a little bit of a pilot
Right.
changes in some
Yep.
areas where that's possible to do. and then see, okay, great, and then get feedback from other folks, not just within those departments, but get feedback from others, because eventually when you roll it out, it's going to affect them.
Sure.
So how do we do all this so that we're not stuck, and we're not really being part of those statistics that we looked at earlier in terms of the close to 70% of those projects failing or 40% of employees feeling anxious. So when you put it all together, it's a simple model, APE model, but it's not easy necessarily. I
Right.
mean,
We'd call it
there's
simple and sophisticated.
simple and sophisticated. You just have to keep things there, as far as in perspective of what you want to do, in terms of the change. And yeah, and so I was just going to say, if anybody wants to chat about that, they're obviously welcome to connect with me. I'm very active on LinkedIn. So just best way is to just reach out to me, Cesar Viana Teague there, connect with me, message me, or you can certainly book some time as well. So I thought to share that here, and then just see if you had, what questions you may have around this.
Yeah, I think I love the model that you've created and the references to the previous work. I guess how do you get an executive group to, like, what's the pre-work that they should do to get prepared to work with somebody like you in that type of structured change management process?
Yeah, I think I mentioned courage. Finding some time, obviously, because if this, some people will have it as a priority. Some people don't necessarily. It's there, but it's not something. Okay, it's not urgent yet. That
Right.
whole Eisenhower matrix thing, urgent, important thing. So the conversation with me is just initially to understand what is the priority, what is the urgency of it, and then start to do. I think some people can start to do their own analysis.
Right.
I think that would be an excellent place to start in terms of measuring, well, even before their readiness, they can start to analyze their own situation with whatever the technology, whatever, if they're introducing, for example, if they're introducing Agent Force,
Yeah.
or if they're introducing some other AI tools within their go-to-market piece, um, ERP, like we talked about, ERP or CRM, what have you. You'd be good to do a SWOT around that, and then assess. Okay, given this, how soon do we want to get going on this change?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not there to tell people when to get going on it, because I'm going to just default to you need to have started this yesterday.
Yeah. Right.
But the urgency needs to be there. The leader needs to step up, and whomever that may be, the champion. And that's another important point, by the way, is you need to have, when you're working with somebody there, we need to have an internal champion to work with. And
Yep.
that's an excellent place to start, as well as identifying that person. And some companies have their COEs, their centers of excellence, right?
Right.
Some have the PMO, the project management office, or they may not have any of that, but they might have a chief of staff. Maybe that person could be the change, that could be the champion. But you
Right.
need to have somebody that's going to champion this, and that everybody likes and trusts, hopefully, and then go from there. Then I can work with that person and help them, and then go from there. With fractional basis or what have you. It's all good.
Yeah, and then what about if a group is already kind of in the middle and a little bit of flailing? Like, how do you direct them to kind of reset?
Yeah, and it's similar to. I mean, I don't know if you like basketball, but I'm sort of rooting for the Warriors there. But how do you reset when somebody like the star Steph gets injured?
Right.
Right. I mean, how do you reset when what you've been doing it's changed. It isn't working anymore. And so you really have to go back to basics. I mean, what else are you going to do? Right. You have to go back to see, all right, we need to analyze and assess what's working, what's not working, and then determine some of the root causes for what may be causing the things to work well, and
Yeah.
what has potentially caused them to not be as effective. And then what are we going to do differently? Right? Not better. Better doing something better gets you incremental gains, right? And I think I really love when Apple came out with that back in the late 80s, the think different piece.
Yeah.
Doing things differently gets you exponential gains. So you need to take a step back for a moment. And that's where I can help and come in and say, all right, let's look at this objectively. What have you tried? Here's what we've done that's worked. Here's what we tried or we haven't tried that hasn't worked.
Yep.
And go from there and see, okay, what are going to be our next steps and priorities? And that's where we then plan after we analyze and assess it. See, that's why the model really, really works well. It's simple.
Yeah.
But again,
there's sequential activities that build on each other.
Yeah, so you don't skip. Make sure you don't skip anything. That's why the model comes in to understand, okay, where are we? Are we all aligned at this stage? Like I said, it looks very simple on the continuum, but we don't know where people are at. Is everybody on board even at this stage?
Yeah.
Well,
I love the model. I love the sequential nature of it, and I really appreciate you describing it and showing it today. And when you have your training completed and the website going, I'd love to have you back on, and we'll walk through that with you as well, and to see how that supports adoption of new technologies or new teams or whatever the process of change is that a company's in.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'd like to do that. And I'm working on a new landing page on it. And that's why I'm saying if people want to reach out, now in the interim, because I'm probably about, a month away. And because guess what? I too go through change. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, Cesar, I really appreciate your time, and I'm very grateful that you shared the APE process with me and the listeners. And thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. I hope you have a great day. And hang on while I close this out, and we'll say goodbye properly. Okay. Thank you. So change management is an important process to deconstruct and implement inside your organization, not just for AI deployments, but for product launches or executive changes and departmental changes. And taking some time to look at the SWOT analysis and building a plan and working to over communicate are just a few of the ways that you can make these change initiatives successful and reap the benefits of that. And it's a great idea to get some help with those and to bring in some outside help to guide you through it. I hope you got value out of the conversation today, and I hope you take some time to test and understand some of the AI tools that are out there and get some time back in your work week. And with that time, that you continue to upskill, that you spend more time with your friends and family, and that you get outside in nature and get away from the screens. Thanks for joining me today. This is Emanuel Rose, Marketing in the Age of AI.
Thanks for listening to Marketing in the Age of AI. Be sure to subscribe wherever you heard this podcast so you never miss a future episode. Your copy of Authentic Marketing in the Age of AI is available at Amazon.com or EmanuelRose.com. You can also connect with Emanuel on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.